wires. Hey, you want to pump some iron? I'd buy that for $1.
That makes me. Hey, pass me another one of them donuts, would you? They got a jam buster?
No, there ain't no jam busters.
Stupid donut shop. Okay, I'll take one of these in. Man.
Hey, this isn't our regular squad car.
It was the last squad car in the garage. I think the others must be out for maintenance or something.
It smells funny.
Like what?
Like baby food and shits and grease.
Yeah. What the? There's a bunch of greasy nuts and bolts on my chair.
Oh man, this is Murphy's car.
Murphy.
That's gross.
Let's get the hell out of here. I'm going back on strike.
Back on strike.
Media Break with Jess Perkins and Casey Wong.
Today's top story. OCP officers back on strike after the latest setback for local law enforcement.
Their primary demand: less robo-shit in the squad cars. Media Break. You give us 3 minutes and we'll bring you the world. Hello and welcome to Random Movie Time. Today's feature is the 1987 sci-fi action classic Robocop, directed by Paul Verhoeven and starring Peter Weller, Nancy Allen, and Ronny Cox. So this tells the story of a officer who's injured in the line of duty and is transformed into a crime-fighting cyborg named Robocop. What do you think of this movie, Shannon?
I think it's really funny. It's a great movie. I know this sounds crazy, but I had never seen it. I mean, I knew all the the gags and the joke, like the quotes and things like that. But I've seen lots of clips, but I didn't realize it was such a funny movie. Like, I just thought, I never really had that much interest in seeing it because I just thought it was just another one of those action flicks. And I'm not really interested in just plain old action flicks. So it was a really nice surprise to see that I was laughing a lot and there was a lot of nostalgia for me. Like, Lisa Gibbons is the newscaster, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that brings me back to my young adult teenage days when I used to see her on Entertainment Tonight and all that. So that was really cool, and it was really great seeing some of these old familiar faces. Like, there was, damn you, Jellicoe, Ronny Cox, good old Ronny Cox playing the bad guy, one of the bad guys in this film. Him, of course, I always remember him as Jellicoe from Star Trek, and he was in a number of great things. He was in Deliverance, and he was also in Stargate. So it was really great to see him in that role. Also, Red from That 70s Show, aka Kurtwood Smith, playing the gang leader of, and wow, what a great job he does. You know, he's so good, and he's also in a number of Star Trek episodes, Star Trek Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Lower Decks. And he's done, of course, That 70s Show and a number of TV shows. He was really, really good in this. And another one I wanted to mention was Leland from Twin Peaks, aka Ray Wise. As soon as I saw that face, I was like, oh, it's Leland. He did such a great job too. I really liked seeing him. He's also a Star Trek alumni. He's been in Voyager, Next Generation, and he was in Tim and Eric. Awesome show. Great job. So obviously he has a great sense of humor too. That was really well done. But to the meat of the story, I loved not only seeing all those actors, but I love the nostalgic feel of it. I mean, it's supposed to be futuristic, but they kept a lot of that 80s feel to it. Like it really felt like you were watching one of those 80s cop dramas, like Hill Street Blues or something like that.
Hill Street Blues, Hill Street Blues, Hill Street Blues, I've got those Hill Street Blues.
So I loved that part of it. I really related to it because I grew up in the 80s. You know, I was born in the 70s, and most of my preteens and my teenagehood was in the 80s, and so this was just a big nostalgia fest, and I totally got the joke, which was great. I felt really bad for Robocop. It was sad. It was a sad story, even though he won in the end. But I mean, God, that poor guy. What's he gonna do? He's just gonna be a cyborg for the rest of his life, remembering his wife and his child, and he never being able to see them again. Oh, it's just awful. I could have done without the shrill laughter from the gang. There's a couple of gang members, but in particular that black one, the black gang member, had this high shrill laugh, and it was just too much for me. I mean, I know it's supposed to be over the top and crazy and all that, but it really got on my nerves after a while. And what I loved too was that it was it just kind of all of a sudden you were in the movie, just out of the blue. It was like Robocop, and then it started. And then there were no end credits. It was just like, okay, that's the end of the movie. Robocop. It was just like, there was no grand finale or grand opening. It was just, it just happened. Boom, there you are. And a lot of it was funny, what's that big robot called again? The
ED-209 or Ed-209?
Ed-209. That stop motion was hilarious. And I think if they were trying to do it as a serious movie, it might be really quite ridiculous, but it really fits in. Like, how silly that robot is. And the stop motion. I don't know if they did it on purpose like that to make it part of the joke, but
I think that's pretty much as good as you can get with stop motion. I think it still looks pretty damn good for the time, you know, like Phil Tippett did it. He's kind of an expert. He worked on Star Wars and stuff like that. So, I mean, yeah, when you compare it to modern CG, or even they're using a lot of, you know, cheaper actual robotics in movies these days, it doesn't hold up as much, but I thought it looked pretty cool.
Yeah, well, my feeling is that it really fits in with the whole story, because the story is a big farce, isn't it? It's a big commentary, and I think that if it was trying to be a serious cop drama and you had that stop motion robot like that, it wouldn't fit in very well. It might be, you know, depending on how bad the movie was, but yeah, it suits the film, I think. Yeah, the special effects for the most part were pretty impressive for the time. I mean, 1987, it's you know, really quite good. And yeah, like I said, I liked the feel of the movie. I liked how they used the score appropriately. It was kind of minimalist, but it worked very well. And the cinematography, and he got across what he was trying to get across. It worked really well. What about you, Tommy?
Oh yeah, I love this movie. A real classic. I was just a little too young to see it in the theaters when it came out. So I was 16, and this was like a NC-17 movie or whatever. Obviously, it has like a lot of violence and nudity. They really struggled trying to get this movie released without too many cuts, because the over-the-top violence was sort of part and parcel with the story that was all fit in with the sort of satirical comic book style edge to it. But I did rent it on video as soon as it came out, because I knew I was going to like this movie, and I really did. And it's just one of those movies that I just sort of watch all the time. I never get sick of it. It has such a slam bam editing style, you know. Even though it's a comedy, it works well just as a regular action movie too. Even if you don't see the satirical part of it, or if that flies over your head, it still works great just as just a regular super action-packed movie. But a lot of those satirical points were really well. I like the part about the misfiring Star Wars peace platform, which accidentally kills 2 former U.S. presidents. Probably one of them would have been Reagan, right? At that time. So that was kind of funny. And I really like Peter Weller. Peter Weller, I had first seen him in Buckaroo Banzai. And he's a very interesting actor who always gives a very interesting performance. Lately, he was on Guillermo del Toro, Cabinet of Curiosities.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
really good on that. Yeah.
Yeah, he was in an episode called Viewing, directed by Panos Cosmatos, who also directed one of my favorite movies, Beyond the Black Rainbow. So when I saw he was doing that episode, I had to watch it, and he was really good in that. He's also been in 2 Star Trek productions. He was the bad guy in a later episode of Star Trek Enterprise, and he was sort of a bad guy in one of the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies. He was playing a twisted Starfleet Section 31 Admiral type guy. So he knows his science fiction. He's been around the block in lots of great science fiction outings. He was kind of a guy that they needed to fit into that suit, because they needed kind of a slim guy, but who still had an imposing face and an imposing mannerism. And you know, he had studied dance and mime and all that, so like he got the movements down really well in the suit. And Nancy Allen was great. It was too bad that we didn't see her in a lot of movies in the 80s. She was in some notable ones though. And Ronny Cox, of course, you know, always a great bad guy. Paul Verhoeven used him again in Total Recall as maybe even a nastier bad guy, I would say, if that's possible. But yeah, great movie, great effects, brilliant editing, really nice cinematography, amazing score by Basil Polidoris, and just so many satisfying action beats where you know, the guy crashing into the vat of toxic waste and the
so
car
funny.
crashes. It's just like a Looney Tunes cartoon, you know? Yeah.
And he comes out, automatically comes out all like misshapen and stuff.
Mutated in 1 second, yeah.
That's so funny.
Anyway, so how many Ed 209s would you give this out of 5?
Gosh, I'll give it 4 Ed 209s out of 5. It was really entertaining, really funny, but it for some reason it's not quite a perfect movie for me. Even though I was pleasantly surprised by it, and I loved seeing all those you know, those actors, and I loved the 80s feel, and there was some really great things about it, but it's not quite a 5 for me. How about you, Tommy?
Solid 5 out of 5. Yeah, I think this is a perfect classic movie, and I'm gonna keep watching it till I die. I think it's just an amazing movie.
Then they put you in a cyborg suit.
Yeah,
So
that old story.
after you die, you'll still watch it.
I'll still keep on watching it. Well, I think I hear Ed 209 coming, so we better get to the stairwell.
Yeah. Yes, drop the gun. You have 20 seconds, 10 seconds to comply.
Anyway, we'll see you next time on
Random Movie Time.